guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nthabi and thank you so much for joining me today. So to my old subscribers, thank you so much for your constant support. I highly appreciate it, and to the new ones, welcome, and I hope it will be a fun time for you. Anyway, so today I'm doing a book review, something I haven't done for a long time, or rather for a while here on my channel. And today we're reviewing this book. It is called The Fifth Mountain by Paulo Coelho. And it was a nice read. It wasn't a fast read. Like, it's not one of those books where you get into it and it's like it grabs your attention immediately. No, it's like it sort of kind of builds up, but then once you get into the rhythm of it, you can't put it down. Well, that's what happened to me. Firstly, because I found the story very interesting, because I had never really delved into the story of Elijah. Like, I've read about it here and there in the Bible, you know, one sermoniana, two sermoniana, one punchline, two punchline, you know. And I mean, what I would associate with the story of Elijah is us understanding how even in the old times people still struggled with depression, even though it's not said explicitly in the Bible, but we see how it manifested in Elijah based on the story of him fleeing from being persecuted, because you know the prophets of the land were being persecuted at the time, and all of those things. So like basically what I find synonymous with Elijah is like how he failed to eat, how he was being fed by ravens, like God planted him near a river, that's where he got to drink the water. Like basically, like, you know, and God waking him up, like, dude, eat something, you know. That's what I find synonymous with the story of Elijah. And not necessarily that he was a 23-year-old. That was new information for me, I will not lie. Maybe it's my lack of being interested in the story before now, like studying on it or finding information, digging a little bit deeper than the surface, which really helped. And also what this novel did for me is humanize him. Because I mean, firstly, if I'm finding out that you're 23, you're young, dude. You're young. Half of the time at 23, you're either in varsity in this day and age, or trying to figure out if you want to go to varsity, because not all of us like get out of high school into varsity. Sometimes you don't even know what you want your life to look like. So it kind of like sort of humanized him in a way that I didn't expect. But like what really stood out for me in this book is how, number one, he obeyed because of fear. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Because I mean, he was being persecuted, so obviously if there is a way out of this, I will run to that, right? So he obeyed God. I think this is my personal interpretation or my personal observation, is that he obeyed God out of fear of dying. Like, I just want to know, who of us is not scared of dying? Maybe you're not scared of death, and that's fine, but me, for one, I'm scared of dying. So if God is going to give me an avenue to escape dying, count me in. Anyway, so which really reminded me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine. Like, obviously it encompassed a whole lot more, but it reminded me of when she said that her salvation for a large part, or rather not even salvation, her believing and doing the right thing for a large part was inspired by fear, like the fear of God and how grand he is and how scary he is, which that was a trip. So it now, because of that conversation, I could connect the two and be like, oh, it actually makes sense. Obeying due to fear, due to being scared of this God, this almighty, all-knowing God, who literally can finish you at the flip of a switch. It really made sense for me. But also seeing how, like, man, I don't know, maybe it's my current relationship with God that I'm able to make these observations on some. He didn't have to like tap into the fear of it all, because all he had to do was just sit back, reevaluate how God has been faithful in his life in order for him to like move away from that. But I guess it serves his story to go through that and then unlearn that behavior to really see who God is. Because sometimes I feel like we don't take a step back to see really who God is in our lives, because we're not focused on those things. We're not focused on the things that he is doing in the background or even in the foreground of our lives. We're just focused on these grand things that we don't see God for who he is in our lives. So cool beans, he then now starts to fall in love, and I'm like, yeah, firstly, you're falling in love with a widow whom believes in Baal, ne? By the way, you are seen as a traitor because you believe in this unseen God. But somehow God even uses this woman to house Elijah in Akbar. God uses that situation to his favor and also to Elijah's favor. But also I was very curious to see like how it played out. Like obviously they fell in love with each other. It wasn't just a one-sided story where Elijah fell in love with a woman, but they fell in love with one another. And I felt like God was really cruel, like having that woman die. I know like life isn't always a fairy tale, isn't always, you know, this amazing love story. There's gonna be like hectic stuff that happen, there's gonna be adversities and all that. But I felt like, okay, so what was the point of the story? Like what was the point of that plot twist? Like, why, God? Yes, obviously he still was a young man, you know, and he was scared of love, like, which I don't blame him, because up until that point he lived a very simple life. I mean, he was a carpenter and he was just fine, guys. Like he was content with his simple life and all of that stuff until God called him out and was like, I'm gonna let you save my people. But anyway, so yeah, we get to see that plot twist play out, and honestly speaking, I felt like, not from a novel perspective, but from like the overall arcing story, what was the reason? What was the point? Like, sure, he realized that he can love and that he has the capacity to fall in love, but if you're gonna take that love away, what's the point? Like, really, what's the point? What was the point of that? Or maybe was it like a plot in a bigger scheme of like loving God with all your might and soul? I do not know. Anyway, so then I think what I enjoyed at the end was the fact that, I mean, as the reader, I knew, or I was cognizant always of the fact that God had told Elijah that I'm only going to send you back. I'm only going to send you back. I don't know whether it's to Jerusalem or Israel, but Israel was the people. Listen, never mind my lack of Bible trivia right now, but listen, don't lose me now. So God said that I will only send you back to save my people once you understand the concept of rebuilding. I am going to teach you how to rebuild. Obviously at the time we don't know like what God is referring to when he says rebuild, but that is constantly in the back of your mind as a reader. Like even with Elijah's frustrations, where he feels like nothing really is happening, nothing is going on, like I feel like you've turned your back on me, God, like you keep on hurting me. But like to him, it's not cognizant of the fact that he told him that you're only going to go back once you've learned how to rebuild and once I tell you to go back. So it's very important to remember that. And for me as a reader, like I kept that in the back of my mind. And you can see, man, the frustration that he's going through. And I identified that 100%. Like I identified with that 100%. Because sometimes, man, like we think we have control, therefore we think we can control when God moves, when God tells us what to do, what God is telling us to do. Like we think we have control of that, which we don't. But it's nice to think we do. It's really nice to think we have control over those things. So I get his frustration because it's an issue of control. Simply put, it's an issue of, I thought I had control, but clearly I don't have the control I think I do. But what I also appreciated was him being like, you know what, God, I'm good. This whole dance that we've been doing, I'm good with it. You clearly have something against me and I don't understand it. So please, never speak to me again. I'm good. I'll just live my life however way it turns out, however way it looks. I'm good. Right? But it ends up then being a decision. And which I highly appreciated was that at some point you're gonna have to choose to be in a relationship with God based on a decision. God doesn't force you. He doesn't force himself into your life. He says choose, right? Like, choose me. Obviously, yes, definitely choose me because I love you unconditionally and I know you better than you know yourself. But at the end of the day, I want you to choose me. Right? So that's what Elijah ended up doing. In him, like, being like, God, I'm good. It gave him an opportunity to discover himself. It gave him an opportunity. And actually, contrary to popular belief, I think that, based on my observations, I think that by him stepping away from God, gave him an opportunity to actually step into the purpose that God called him for, which was, yes, overall it was to save his people, but like, let's say short to medium term goal was to teach him to rebuild, because that would capacitate him for the bigger vision that God called him for. So by him stepping away, he actually ended up doing the very thing that God had said he would teach him. That would be the thing that capacitates him to be ready for the job that God has initially called him for. So in a sense, by him stepping away, he found his way back to God based on his own choosing, but also based on a better understanding. Because then he wasn't choosing God because he was scared of the other side, or was scared that if I don't choose God, then his wrath is going to come upon me, or if I don't choose God, all of these things are going to happen to me. But then it became a conscious decision that he took, that okay, God, actually I was wilding. I was really out of my pocket. I didn't understand what was happening, but I understand better now. And actually, you know what? You are the best decision I can make for myself currently. So I think for me, that was very important. That was really, really important. And that is why it is so important to have a personal relationship with God. Because some of these things you will never really understand until you have that personal relationship with God. Because I don't think when God created us, he wanted us to view him as this far off God, who reigned supreme and is never close to us, or doesn't care about us, or isn't an intimate God. You know what I mean? So I think that this was just a reinforcement of that for me, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I absolutely enjoyed this book. I enjoy Paulo Coelho's writing, actually. I thought I wouldn't. I thought it would be too, I don't know. But I really enjoyed this book. And if you're interested, hey, there are many places where you can get it. I think I got mine on Takealot or Loot, one of the two. I'll put links in the description box, and I'm sure it's also there at Exclusive Books. So yeah, I'll put all the links that I can find of where you can get this book if you're really interested in reading it. If you just want a better understanding of the prophet Elijah and just how God uses even the worst of situations for our good at the end of the day. I mean, we could argue and say, was it really for his good? You know, because it felt like at some point he broke him down only to build him up again. But I mean, also, in as much as that, like, Elijah experienced so much adversity, dude, angels were talking to this guy. Like, angels were appearing. God was speaking to him in his voice. Okay? So, while for some that may be scary, for me it's quite intriguing. It's quite interesting. And I think for, like, God must just, you know, make me taste how it is to hear his voice. But I'm okay with how he speaks to me now. But I'm just saying, for the culture, for fun, just how God must just like Nthabi or Nthabi, because I find that more, you know, enduring than Nthabi. Because Nthabi, man, growing up black, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for, you know, watching this video. I really appreciate your time and for clicking on. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, tell your people, tell your friends to come through, you know, and let's have fun together. But also tell me in the comment section, like, which books have you read from Paulo Coelho and how did you find them? Like, did you love them? Did you not? You know, I mean, I've read Alchemist before. It's too far gone now for me to remember. I'd have to read it again in order to do a review about it. But otherwise, tell me, like, what other books have you read that were written by Paulo Coelho and how did you find them? Like, how did they impact your life in any ways they did? Or was it just for reading pleasure? That's also fine, because I do a lot of that. Like, I read for pleasure. So tell me about that. And also, are you a bookworm like I am? Like, currently I'm sitting on 5 books that I'm reading all simultaneously. I used to be that one who reads like one at a time, but I've grown, man. Like, sometimes you just want to start a book now and just get with it. Some of those books you'll finish, like, even though it was number 5, you'll finish it first, because I mean, hey, come on, it's that riveting. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.